Good evening, hello and welcome to this edition of Startup Central. I'm Nayantara working from home. It's an action-packed 60 minutes that we've got lined up for you. Remember, this is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated to startups, technology, innovation, disruption, entrepreneurship. Basically, if it falls under the gambit of the new economy, it's here every weekday on ET Now at 6 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, like all the stakeholders we get on the show, Team Startup Central thrives on constructive feedback. Don't hold back. Keep writing into us. Our email address right on top, suc@etnow.tv. I'm also on Twitter. You can reach out to me directly. Ladies and gentlemen, we today on Startup Central have a big exclusive story. We've been telling you that we're going to break it at 6 p.m. So here it goes. Google is planning to enter the food delivery business. If you didn't hear me right, I'll say it again. Google is planning to enter the food delivery business. Game on, Swiggy, Zomato and Amazon. That's right, so after Amazon, Google also has its eyes set, according to our sources, when it comes to food delivery, which basically means that all of you can go on the search engine google.com, search for restaurants, search for the kind of food, the cuisines that you want, and then also make the transaction on google.com. But no, the delivery boys are not going to be employed by Google, and that's where one of Google's backed startups, in fact, this is the first startup that Google ever invested in India, Dunzo, comes into play. We are being told by our sources that Dunzo is already updated and is updating its servers and integrating with Google with all kinds of informations like restaurant menus, availability, pricing and all of that. So it will be Dunzo which will actually do the last mile connectivity, the last mile delivery, that is the food from the restaurant to your homes or your offices. What this also really signifies is Google transforming itself from becoming just a pure play search engine to carrying out transactions. It's offering services. Yes, you've seen airline tickets and all of that, but now it's looking to capture a big market of transactions. It's looking at food delivery. All of this is source-based information. We of course reached out to Google for a detailed questionnaire. We're still to hear back. In fact, we are also being told that Dunzo, the first startup that Google invested in India, may not be the exclusive partner for Google when it comes to food delivery. It may work with other apps or APIs as they're called, so they could be integrated. So Google looking to enter a business where we're still seeing the likes of Zomato and Swiggy need to make money. Amazon has announced it's going to be looking at food delivery. If you just look at over the weekend, the kind of announcements that have come in from Zomato, 2 years in a row, it has a loss, 2 financial years in a row, it has a loss of $300 million. In the last financial year, ending March 31st, its revenues doubled, but still the loss stayed flat at about $300 million. It's also bought Uber Eats. Swiggy's still not profitable. Food Panda had shut shop, Ola had taken over, Ola wanting to ramp that up. So it's already a very competitive space. It's already a space where we've not seen money be made, like I said. So it's game on by Google for Amazon, Swiggy and Zomato. We're also being told by our sources that Google has begun testing this. So a food delivery platform on google.com. Don't go here and there looking. You don't need another app then. That will obviously be what Google wants. So, so earlier, pre-COVID, if it was about unbundling of apps, post-COVID, it's about bundling of apps. It all seems to be about super apps. And this is a conversation I'm going to take forward now with Zoravar, Kalra, the founder and managing director at massive restaurants. He's of course got many potential brands of restaurants, including Punjab Grill. We're also being joined by Padmaja Ruparel, the CEO at Indian Angel Network. Thank you so much. Zoravar, I'll come to you first because, you are in the food business. You've dealt with the likes of Swiggy, with Zomato, you got Amazon entering. You tell me first, as a restaurateur, what can Google's entry mean for people like you?
On your show, so I haven't had much time to digest the information, but it definitely is interesting. You see, there are 3 main stakeholders in the post-COVID delivery business. You have the consumer, which is the most important aspect of the machine. You have the restaurant, which is, in my opinion, the second most important aspect of the machine. And the third aspect is obviously the aggregator. Now, as you said, in the post-COVID world, it's all about bundling of apps. I seriously believe that people are not going to download more and more apps. I mean, I already have Zomato and Swiggy on my phone. If you tell me to download another Amazon app just for delivery or another Google app just for delivery, I probably wouldn't do that. So from a convergence perspective, it makes logical sense for somebody like Google to jump into it. From a consumer perspective, it makes sense because there is more options. And when there is less of a monopoly and more of competition, who gains first? It's the consumer. And then, of course, it matters from the restaurant's perspective. You have to understand, initially, the entire delivery business in India was built around discounting. That is no longer possible. In the post-COVID world, when restaurants have suffered unbelievable losses, it's very difficult to fund further losses by paying high commissions, by giving huge discounts. And I think the consumer has also become very, very savvy. The consumer is no longer interested in just buying the cheapest food that's possible or that's available to them. They want to now buy from places that have maximum food safety. So I think the consumer is going to become a lot more sophisticated. I mean, they already are sophisticated. They're going to become a lot more cautious. They're going to invest their money in buying food from brands which they already trust, that have a physical existence, that have been in business for several years, that they've already eaten at. Cloud kitchens that form the big part of the delivery aggregators portfolio are going to lose prominence because people haven't seen where these places exist. People don't know what kind of food standards they use, whether they are FSS, AI compliant or not. So definitely the consumer is going to gain. One thing you're going to see happening is commission rates that were earlier absolutely unaffordable are going to come down, so that helps the restaurant. So consumers help because he's got more options and perhaps better availability, and he doesn't have to download more apps. The restaurant will benefit because they probably commissions are going to get competitive, and with more and more players, if supposing Google comes up with a sub 10% commission rate, that'll be a dream for all of us. If that happens, then obviously a lot of restaurants are going to jump on board. So, and the third player that I mentioned, the third stakeholder rather, is obviously the aggregator. Now, I think for them it's going to be a little tough. I have friends that work at these companies, and all the companies are run by good people. But as competition increases, naturally the size of the pie also becomes lesser. So if there are 3 players and there are 100 orders, everybody gets 33. Now, if you've got 5 players and the orders remain at 100, everybody gets only 25% each, or 20% each actually. So from that perspective, the math is stacked up against them. But from a consumer and restaurateur perspective, the entry of another player, again, like I said, I haven't had much time to think about this, but at the outset, from a restaurateur, I think it could be interesting times ahead.
Interesting times ahead, and let's see what Google's entry can actually do. And here I want to come across now to Padmaja. Padmaja, you understand this space. You understand internet companies, the tech space at large. So here's Google, which is carrying out tests, we believe. We understand from our sources how Dunzo is even integrating, all kind of, it's integrating itself with Google for this. You might see other APIs also doing the same, other apps that might do the same. I'm not saying that Dunzo will work exclusively with Google as far as the food delivery business goes. But can you help us understand, we've got the restaurateur's perspective. Can you help us understand if this is going to be large enough to disrupt the space? Now, just because Google is entering doesn't mean that, suddenly it's going to become profitable or only Google can make money. I would imagine the idea for Google is actually to transform the search engine to also a transaction tool.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. What I did want to share with you, I think what you're saying makes sense, but let's take one step back. What the coronavirus has done and all the social distancing and lockdown has done is what demonetization could not achieve for India 4 years ago. That is what this pandemic has done, right? So one of the focuses or objectives of demonetization was use of digital payments for everything and make India almost cashless. But even after that, India went back to cash and currency and all of that. But the pandemic has suddenly changed that. So the digitization that we are seeing in India today, going online from, ordering everything from groceries to paying bills to doing registration of your different government filings, That digitization today is consumer-led. And when it's a consumer-led digitization or a behavior change, that is now going to stay. That is one big item that we are seeing. So people who've never paid a bill online.
I think we've lost the connection with Padmaja. I'm also going to ask my producers and the guest test team that let's reach out to the head of the NRAI. Let's Anurag. Let's also try and bring Padmaja back in to understand the money perspective. But let me come now to you, Zoravar. You know what is ironic is the fact that a pandemic that should have been Swiggy and Zomato's biggest moment has actually seen the fact that American corporations and giants, these are not just corporations, these are the world's largest companies, are looking for a piece of the pie. Amazon as well as Google, right? Now, what is it going to mean for you? If you can suddenly have options with a Google or with a, if you know that a Google search is going to lead to a transaction, does it mean that you will have the bargaining power? Will you even want to be on other apps?
So, you're absolutely correct. And I agree with what Padmaja was also saying, that what Demon could not do, the pandemic has done. India is moving faster towards a digitized economy. But specifically talking about the restaurant industry, before the COVID, for example, my company, actually, we delivered nothing. We believed in high-end experiences. We believed in dine-in experiences and experiential restaurants. And as a result, we didn't deliver. What the COVID has made even companies like me segue into is offline engagement. So what's happened is, online engagement. We have now taken delivery seriously for the first time. And as a restaurateur, my main goal is to make sure that every delivery order that I do is at least breaking even, if not profitable. Obviously, the key goal is to maintain profits because dine-in sales are going to be low. So the overall piece of the revenue pie, delivery is going to take up a larger chunk. Obviously, more and more aggregators that come in from a bargaining perspective, and I hate using that word in business, but let's say from a negotiating perspective, naturally it becomes better for the restaurateur, for the restaurant industry, because traditionally some of the commission rates were exorbitant. They were absolutely unprofitable. In fact, every order that you delivered at those commission rates was a loss-making order. So actually, it costed you money to deliver that food to your consumer. You didn't have access to your consumer database. You could not get feedback. There was a big wall built between you and your consumer. Now, if the new players like Amazon and Google, and I haven't had a chance to look at
the business perspective.
Yeah, sorry.
In fact, let's take that conversation forward. Padmaja is back with us on the phone lines. Zoravar, Padmaja, you got disconnected. Perils of live television. The question I was asking you, and I'll repeat it: what is this going to mean for the existing players? What will it mean for a Swiggy or a Zomato? If it's going to be about super apps, then where does that leave the unicorns that we've been talking about for so long who are yet to turn profitable?
No, I think you're right. You see, what the play is, please understand that by 2023, this digital payments market in this country is going to touch 1 trillion. Okay? So the opportunity for payments to happen, online digital payments to happen, is suddenly exponential. For a Google, I can understand that they had the access to the customer, they were providing value, but they were not monetizing this piece at all. So this makes sense from their perspective. The piece that I think is going to change in some ways is that it's bringing in a platform play for a lot of the providers, be it the delivery guys or be it the restaurants. They are now going to have a much larger platform to access and get a much wider customer base. So there will be some stress, but disruption always creates that. There is no disruption without somebody getting disrupted. That's the reality. But it is not
stress.
Going to be
It's Padmaja, there's more than stress.
Hello?
Padmaja, there's more than stress here. What you also Padmaja, there's more than stress here. Look at the loss figures that have been reported. Your losses are staying stagnant year after year despite revenues doubling. If you look at, you can't, a lot, there are Chinese investors at play whose fresh investments are not being cleared. So that basically means existing investors will have to put in more money, at least in a Zomato, to keep it afloat, right? Swiggy, Naspers, let's see if it's going to put in more, whether it'll go in for a fundraise. But my point is that is the market even is it big enough where you have Google, where you can carry out a transaction on Google and they'll use other apps for last mile delivery, where you'll have an Amazon, you'll also have a Zomato, you'll also have a Swiggy, and we still don't know if Jio is going to enter this business or not. Is the market so large?
The market is going to increase, but is it going to consume everybody? Is it going to allow everybody to play equally? No. There is going to be players that will grow, and there will be players that will get challenged. But the market, the digitization, the payments, the delivery, the online ordering, all of that is growing. I mean, that is evident.
Okay. So Padmaja, one more question before I go back and get the restaurateur's perspective. Is this going to be large enough to disrupt food delivery if Google does enter this space? And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, the big story we're breaking on ET now is that Google wants to enter the food delivery business, and it wants to do so on Google.com. So you can search for the cuisine, the restaurant, the food that you want to eat. You can transact on Google.com, and Google will tie up with third-party APIs or apps to make sure the food is delivered to you. We understand, for example, the Google-backed startup Dunzo is already working on this. Tests are carrying on. We don't know if more are going to be brought on board by Google. We do know that Dunzo seems to be one of them. Padmaja, is this going to be big enough? Is this going to be the Jio moment of food delivery? It's a space where we still haven't seen profit. I once again want to ask you this. It's pro-consumer. What is it going to mean for the space at large? I can't believe that if Google is doing it, then why won't other super apps try it, right? Why won't a Jio try it? Why won't a WhatsApp try it?
So this is out for disruption, and yes, Google is laying the way, but I think it will also mean how the reach and the market reach is going to get done. I mean, Jio is bringing in its own market reach. It's moving much faster into the interiors, penetrating into the tier 3, tier 4. Google may just, I mean, this is just broken, right? You've just broken the news, and congratulations on that. But I think there is a need to get a little bit deeper into what they're planning, which I haven't had a chance to read. But clearly, there will be focus areas which they will mine on. But what it does bring is a lot of the logistics and the delivery guys who have got a much wider platform to now play on. And that should become interesting. For sure.
Okay. So, with that, Padmaja, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on this big story. Actually, before I let you go, please just answer one more question for me. Are you surprised at all that Google wants to enter this space? Could this be, the start of Google looking beyond the search engine, using the search engine to be in all kinds of services? We've seen it do that maybe with tickets. You can now even check cricket scores here, and now it gets into full-on services. And if it's going to do with food delivery, why won't it look at other parts, right? What will it stop from entering FMCG and things like that? Is this the start of that? And has Google been doing this globally?
If you look at it, what I understand, what you shared actually, that they are not really doing the delivery. They are creating the platform and integrating with the API. So they are not doing the on the road delivery. So that they are not doing. What they are doing, which you're right, is they are using all the search engine data, connecting it with the technology, and just bringing in an offline partner to do the delivery. Which means that for a Dunzo or any delivery guy, there is a ready-made platform where they are going to be able to now direct customers from there and deliver, which is going to need a lot more planning for the delivery guys, because it's not going to be easy this is no more an enterprise play. So how do they connect the API and how quickly they pick up the customers and deliver is going to be their differentiator or perhaps their challenge. For the food guys, suddenly they have a whole lot of delivery guys that they can work with. Zomato and Swiggy will have to probably up the game. But it's too early or too nascent a news for me to be able to share with you deeper insights. But yes, I think game on.
Game on. Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato, Google's got its eyes set on food delivery business. Thanks, Padmaja, for joining us on the big story that we're breaking exclusively right here on the channel. If you've just tuned in, Google wants to enter the food delivery business. It's testing this platform out. It doesn't mean that you're going to see Google branded bikes or its own delivery boys ferrying around. Instead, it's looking to tie up in a big way and integrate with the first startup it ever invested in India, which is Dunzo. So you're already seeing apparently servers being updated where Dunzo is integrating with Google.com as well as restaurants, menus, SKU details, pricing, all of that. We've not been able to ascertain whether Dunzo is going to have exclusivity, but knowing the way Google has operated in all domiciles and geographies, it will be looking at other third parties as well. So game on for the incumbents. Let's see if this is going to be big enough to challenge the entire space and whether it's just the start of Google wanting to lead to more transactions on the search engine.